Greetings! Today I have for you a super bonus video. A few weeks ago, a while back, some time ago, I posted on our Facebook group, Creations from Lessons with Odin, about a new bead shape that CzechMates has come out, the CzechMates 2-hole diamonds, and asked if you guys would be interested in that. Well, the awesome people over at Aura Crystals has poked me, and they offered to send me some of the CzechMates diamonds to try out. So they had kindly offered to send some samples over, and I've got a pretty good impression of what the beads have to offer. So thank you to Aura Crystals for sending these off to me. This is not a sponsored video. They just sent over some samples to see what I could do with them and what I thought of them, and to give you guys some inspiration for these shapes as well, because there's a lot on the market. So there are a few factors that I take into account whenever I decide, with all the new bead shapes coming in, if I decide what I think I wanted to test out, or what I would think would be useful in my little bead arsenal. Mostly is if I see it and I have an immediate use in my head, that's generally a good sign of a useful shape to me personally. And with these, I definitely did see a lot of use for this shape. I could see this doing a lot of bezels, a lot of dimensional work, like making really structured shapes like cubes and squares and something like that, making really sharp corners, which is what I like. I don't like a lot of rounded edges when it comes to bead shapes. I really like jagged, sharp, spiky things, as we probably well know by now. You could probably have a lot of fun with spiral ropes, creating frames even, like little outer squares or something along the lines, and then just kind of like fill out the inside there with it. But, so I was really piqued to try this one out. And to kind of give you an idea of what I did with it, I have this design. So I have a video tutorial on this next Tuesday, or this coming Tuesday actually, on how to make this, and this is what I did, and kind of what I was talking about with the structures. I wanted something to kind of highlight what the shape is capable of, so I have a lot of floating pieces, structures in this one. I have the centerpiece kind of drifting in a net, and it kind of just does some really cool physics, and I had a lot of fun designing this piece. So that's kind of what I did. I immediately thought of bezels, I immediately thought of like making nets and kind of like grid pathways and stuff like that. In terms of actual design mechanics, you can kind of think of these kind of like super duos, but I'm very hesitant to say you can interchange them because of the way it's structured. As we can kind of see, the diamonds are longer and the super duos are shorter, but they are also wider, and the diamonds are thinner, so I probably wouldn't say you could interchange them. However, when you're designing your own pieces, you can probably use the same mentality of super duos as you would with the diamonds, especially since the hole is kind of in the same place. You can see how the hole is on the ends, close to the ends, like a super duo, as compared to something like a crescent bead, which is a bit more complicated to design with, because I will bring a crescent bead here, and the holes are closer to the center, so you have a lot more material that's kind of sticking out of a piece that you have to account for, whereas these you can definitely use as transitions or something that'll widen a piece. And also, my first impressions of this is that these were so teeny compared to it. I don't have anything for scale. You can kind of see on a pinky nail how teeny these things are, because when I saw them on images online, I thought they were a lot larger. I thought they were closer to something like a CzechMate triangle, but these are very tiny, and they add a really nice profile, or small profile, so you can just use them as functional pops of color and spacers. So I'm amused by teeny shapes like this. Another factor that I use to kind of tailor what bead shapes I like is the price point and the color range. Now, since this is a CzechMate branded bead shape, there's definitely a lot of colors available, so you've got like your opaques, you've got your metallics, you've got your matte metallics, and they even have polychromes with these, which polychromes are so nice. I used polychrome super chaos here, so you can kind of see how it's kind of a flash of purple and blue well, not really, a little bit of purple. It's like blue and green. With, like, depending on what direction the light hits it. I love the polychrome finishes so much. So there's definitely a wide range that you can, to match your projects. But of course with me, I have a very limited palette to, that I try to stick to and work with basically like silvers and bronzes and blacks and reds. Basically earth tones and black, red, and silver, as we all know. So I generally stick with those color themes. This one I kind of went out of my comfort zone and played with, and I kind of like how that turned out. And the price point is, they're around, depending on the color, between $3 and $5 for a 10-gram pack, which is about 125 beads. So not too bad, actually. And there's very few that hit the $4 to $5 mark. Most of them are around the $3.10 to $3.50 mark. So it's actually pretty reasonable. And if you stick to like a few colors that you usually pick, it's actually not that bad for the budget conscious. So also on the note of colors though, I do notice there are some variations in the manufacturing process. Let's see, I have a couple of opaque finishes. I've got turquoise and black here. I've got a Picasso, I think this is. Opaque rose, gold, topaz, luster. Okay. So we've got that one, which is a little bit of a shimmery note. I've got an iris and a bronze and a matte metallic silver. Now, of these finishes that I have, I've noticed a lot more imperfections in the matte metallics. There are a lot of plugged holes in here, and a lot of the molding kind of... I'm not sure how to describe it. The edges aren't very clean in the matte metallics compared to the actual metallic irises and the opaques. You can kind of see how that one has some flash. I think I call that flash, from the molding process. So that's just something you might want to be aware of, but I've used the matte metallics in this design and I didn't notice it be a very big impediment in the design process, so that's just something to keep aware of. I found a lot more. You can see there's a lot of hole blockages on this one. And then this one, I only found one of these kinds, but with any two-hole bead shapes, I found like a little imperfection where both holes aren't completely there, or like, I see that a lot in crescents too, so it's not unusual. However, of all of these, this is the first one I found that looks like this, so that's a good sign. If you're worried about that, I would stick with the opaque or the metallic finishes. The matte metallics, I'm not sure. I'll have to test out more and probably buy more to see what the samples are like. So just be sure to keep an eye on what you're beading and make sure both holes are clear before you thread on, and find out later when it's too late and it will make you cry. So another thing to keep in mind is that there is a bit more thread visibility when it comes to transitioning between the two sides, because the gap between the holes is a little bit wider, so it's kind of more noticeable if you have the threads showing. So I've done a test piece. I've done this kind of herringbone patch with super duos, and the way both a combination of the shape of the piece and just kind of where the threads are kind of makes the thread a little bit more obstructive, but this one probably could be remedied just by putting size 15 seed beads. You can kind of see there's a lot of gaps in between spaces here, whereas compared to the same stitch done with super duos, not as much of the thread is visible, and the way the shape is kind of rounded, so they kind of fit in together better. That's just kind of some things that I've been playing around with, and just kind of observations that I have made. But it'd be kind of cool if you did like a right angle weave type deal, where you made a grid out of these and you shoved beads like in between the open gaps. That would happen. I think that would be kind of a cool, interesting, dynamic construction. Then I also kind of want to mention the hole compatibility. It looks like in terms of spacing of the holes between the two, they are pretty compatible with other CzechMates beads. You can kind of see the crescent and the diamond has about the same distance between the two compared to, however, the Super Duo, there's not a lot of difference between it, so a lot of these shapes are pretty compatible when you want to do like two-hole things and string similar shapes together, or similar two-hole things together, like if you want to do a Super Duo, Diamond Super Duo kind of thing. These beads seem to have been designed for spacing, compared to like the rest of the beads on the industry, which is nice, so that you don't have to, worry about specifically shaped things, or if you got like gaps too wide that you have to make up for with other beads. So that's nice when it comes to a designing perspective. And then just one thing you might want to keep in mind, I'm obsessed with these shapes, but other people might not be, but you can kind of compare them to like dragon scales. The dragon scales are smaller, they only have one hole too, but if you wanted to make more, like, if you wanted to keep like a pointed motif to pair with them, so you can maybe like not have an empty hole at the end of a piece and wrap it around another bezel or something along those lines. But yes, that is about it for my impressions on these beads. I really enjoyed working with them. They have a very nice, rigid, sleek structure, which is very, very in with my aesthetic personally. So I'm probably going to buy more, actually, to keep in my little stash. Let me know if you guys want to see more tutorials with these bead shapes, and what other ideas you would like to see with them, because I think they're a really great support piece as opposed to like a, I guess we'll call it meat bead, if you know what I mean. These ones offer structure, they offer bone work, skeleton work to your pieces, compared to something like a spike or a super chaos or a bicone, which is more like the meat, and more focal point to a project. So that's kind of, that's a good definition of what kind of the types of, the two classes of beads, I suppose. So we have the bones and we have the meat, and these are very good bone beads. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of this bead shape. I know it's really hard to keep up with all of the new designs coming out and all the manufacturings, but this one I think is really good. That's another thing, I keep wanting to say diamond duos instead of diamonds. So that's kind of a, I don't know how to, that's kind of a marketing tiptoe. But anyway, if you would like to try these out for yourself, I will leave links down below to Aura Crystal's shop and the page where you can find these diamonds. And just try some out. Also comment down below what you guys would use this bead shape for. And come join us on our Facebook group at Creations from Lessons with Odin. We'd love to see you there. And also be on the lookout for this tutorial coming up next Tuesday. Or actually this Tuesday. The 30th. The 30th! I'm gonna have this out for you guys to try out, so be sure. And it's actually not as hard as it looks. It looks very complicated and intricate. It's not. It's really easy, and it's like only 5-ish rows. Everything will be down below. Thanks again to Aura Crystals for sending these off to me. I had a lot of fun playing with them, and I'm looking forward to doing more with these. And it's definitely going to probably be a good staple in my stash. So I think that will do it from me. Be sure to like up this video and subscribe if you want to see more bullshit from me. Check out my other jewelry shenanigans going on. Check out my other shenanigans going on, because I do much more than just jewelry here. And as always, comment down below your impressions, your impersonations, what you guys want to see in the future. If you like these bead reviews, let me know what other bead shapes you might want to see on the channel. And thank you guys so much for joining me, and of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to let me know down below. And I will see you next time.